Dun dun dun. As always, Cindy's in first. How you guys doing today? Tanya Powell and Norma Jean. How's it going? How are you, Norma Jean? Are we on a retreat right now? Somebody's asking in the chat.
We're on our own.
Yeah. We're working on ourselves right now and working on next levels, so to speak. Not just personally, but with the business. And yeah, it's one of those things that you go through these waves of different steps, right? Yeah. And it's a matter of like bringing up and up leveling, and then you sit there and you integrate and then you go up another level, integrate. So we're at one of those, we were in between, and now we're doing a shift. Yeah. Because when we first landed down here, it was like 2 weeks of just lots of quiet, lots and lots of quiet, lots of grounding, lots of water. And then it was like, okay, we're getting ready to move. So yeah, we're having a great time. We're here in a beautiful spot just above Belize. So we're on the Caribbean Sea. And if you could see the actual blue that it is, it's gorgeous. So yeah, Mahalo. Nobody comes here. There's cruise ships that stop here. So people come in for like 5 or 6 hours and then they're out again. So it's really nice because when they haven't been stopping here because it's a bit stormy, but it's been really nice because it's actually really quiet here. It reminds me of Sayulita before it got really busy outside of Puerto Vallarta. Hey, Dave, how are you? Yes, everybody, thumbs up, please. As well, please comment after the video. And today we have a good topic for you guys that we've been chatting about for a bit, and it's this managing emotions. And I'm going to let Norma Jean start it off. Oh, nice look.
Oh. She caught me off guard. Managing emotions, that's probably the lesson least taught, at least that I remember and recall, as I came into this world, and I can't say that I didn't have a mother and father that didn't do their best, but of course it was one of those that I'm grateful because my mom was that very strong, nurturing and steadfast type of mom, where my dad, didn't have the same type of upbringing, so to speak. It was a little rougher for my dad than it was for my mom. So, I have to say that my mom was probably the foundation of the family unit, given that, it was one of those that with those dynamics, I was able to see two ways of handling situations, environments, feelings, emotions, and things like that. So it was kind of one of those that it was amazing as I look at it now, because as I understand it for self, we have the masculine and the feminine, and understanding how to bridge those two in understanding the fullness of what each represents within us. And I have to say that by going back and reflecting on those times, it was kind of like I had that already taken place in my environment and in my experience as I was growing up, to know that I knew that there were always basically one of two ways to approach any and all situations. It was one of those that as I was growing and became the teenager and went into adulthood, it was one of those that I still, for myself, had to go through those experiences to really come to a place ultimately where I said, I'm missing something. For there was a balance, and then there was an imbalance. There was a balance, and then there was an imbalance. And so as I worked to understand more about myself, the reflection of what I experienced with my mom and dad also helped me to better understand what was going on within me. So, as we go through this and we get to know more about ourselves, we get to understand more about how to empower ourselves through our ability to actually sit down and reflect on who we were, who we are, and who it is that we would like to see ourselves become, because anything is possible, especially when we give ourselves that time and space in place first. And it took me time to understand that myself. And I've mastered these emotions because I've mastered self at this level and degree. I'm not saying 100%. Please do not hold me to that. However, I have over the years, especially, I would say, especially in the last 2 to 3 years, especially the last, probably since 2021, I got back to focusing on myself 100%. What was I feeling? What was it I need to learn from this experience I just come from? What is it that I need to see about myself where I quit making those same choices that keeps putting me in those positions and places that I do not want to experience any longer because I know them very well? And what was it that I did learn from this, knowing that I went in also understanding that I knew there was something for me to know, for me to see, for me to experience, to understand more about my integrity, to understand more about the strength that I have within myself to be able to sit with self and actually be, you know, just brutally honest with the being that I am, knowing that I'm experiencing this life in this form, knowing that the being has to has to master a way to integrate with this vessel so that vessel understands the being, this more ultimate higher aspect of who we are. And that's where the dance comes in. And then on top of that, utilizing the information that we hold dearly when we do have, a family unit, or we hold dear to the ones that did give us that guidance as we grew, to better understand how to approach this thing called life. And I knew, even growing and becoming that, I knew there was something more to this. I knew that the life that I was experiencing, it just didn't seem right. It just, and that's, at that time, that was the only way that I could um, express it, was through that judgment. Excuse me. But as I sit back and reflect on things now and see it from a higher level, I understand that judgment, but that judgment also brought me to the place of being able to do the reflection, to understand that without that, I wouldn't know the the greater aspect of our ability to transmute and transcend what we have been experiencing. So, to master emotions is to understand that, like we've spoken to before, emotion means no motion. So that just means understanding that what we've been holding on to is getting to that place of reflectiveness where we see it from a greater perspective, where we can take that emotion and move it so that it becomes motion, moves out, and definitely produces or provides us with that space to fulfill it with something so much greater, so much more. So, yeah, that's my story. How about yours?
No, that's perfect. And so thank you, Cindy. Cindy's saying the audio is great, but pick keeps freezing. We've got full bars here, so hopefully that'll smooth out on its own. Okay. Now, was your dad's entire lineage um in the military?
Hmm. I would be honest with you. I don't recall about my father's father.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about that side.
Yeah.
However, what I do recall was his mom was dating a lot of service people, and that there was also the situation that my dad grew up with his mom, and she was an alcoholic. So that was a dynamic that was in his family that he experienced, which, that family dynamic was a little different. He didn't have that stability. I recall my mom telling me that one time my dad got into a lot of trouble at 15 or 16 because he just was so, you know, angry for, you know, not having the understanding or that guidance needed to understand what he experienced so that he could transmute or, you know, become better of an individual that was a little more open to understanding the ultimate, you know, being that he was, and that was love. So
Well, the ultimate being we all are is love.
yes,
We just get led astray so far.
right.
Yeah. So I would say for me, and this is why I want to show this, because in my family, my mom had me when she was 18. So she was still a child herself, honestly. No, yeah, my mom was 18 and my dad was 20. So very, very young. And my dad's entire lineage, as far as I know, all were in the military. And so there was a lot of, I remember how my grandpa was. I remember. So I remember, so I could see that programming at the time when I was younger. I wasn't, I can see it now. I couldn't see it then. So my dad was always the dad that do as I say, not as I do. You'll never amount to anything. And so then my response to that was, "Oh, fuck you. I'm going to show you." Pardon my potty mouth, but that's okay. I'm allowed. um, and I'm not going to put up with this. So I have an opportunity to push through this, and I did. But I was fighting my entire right. I was fighting myself. I was blaming others. And so this really wanted to share this triangle because this is a really important triangle because first we play the victim, right? And if we're not playing the victim, one of our friends or we expect somebody to come and rescue us, right? And I've been a great rescuer, especially, to have people like me, right? You always want to be helpful so other people like you, right? Or you're playing the victim and blame somebody else for something that only you have control over, or you're the persecutor, you're attacking somebody else, or you're pushing on somebody else. This triangle is really important to get out of this triangle and to become the observer that we always talk about, to be able to pull yourself out of it. And before you react, before you blame, before you go rescue, or before you attack somebody else, stop and take a few deep breaths and go, oh, what is my role at this moment? And what is the outcome if I do this or if I do that? And so to be really keenly aware of your role at any given moment. And so as I was going through my life, I got into adrenal fatigue because I was just pushing. I was just pushing the business, pushing through raising Jade, doing it mostly on my own. Her father is around, but she's a little detached from him at this point because she sees who he is. And he's a lovely man. He's just on his own path, doing his own thing like we all are, right? So, we all have our own struggles. And so for me, it wasn't until probably 4 or 5 years ago, you guys, that I was able to get my mind still enough to actually be able to think clearly and then to get it like slow down. She sees me when I get into that mode. It's like, oh, it's a good pattern in me where it's like go, 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 go. I'm really good at it because it's a habit that is in my subconscious programming. So I have to be very keenly aware and observe it and make sure I'm stepping out of it at any given time. And so the biggest thing that changed for me, one, was getting out in nature. And we're talking a couple hours, 3, 4 days a week by myself, maybe with my mom's dog. Yeah, but I was spending most of it by myself. I wasn't trying to listen to anything. I was just moving energy and clearing stuff, and whatever came up would look at it. Plant medicine, microdosing, was a bridge, which I think has greatly helped me to transfer. Like Norma's been working on this since 33. It's maybe been 7 years that I became more conscious of the brain, but it's really only been 5 where I'm like, oh, I'm starting to master this instead of banging my head against the wall. Fuck, why isn't this working? Because there's a lot of frustration. You get to a frustrated point. But once you can get your mind to quiet, that is the biggest game changer ever. And then let's get into the emotions, because that triangle is really important, right? You're either, oh, woe is me, I've been victimized, or you're rescuing and you're giving away your energy to help somebody else and not keeping any for yourself. Us mothers are really good at that. Always so busy mothering that we're not taking time for us, right? And I'm just going to pop this back up because I just want everyone to make sure they get to see it. So, or you're attacking somebody else because you're blaming them for your circumstances. And so the most important thing you can do is take responsibility for yourself. Even your emotions is taking responsibility. Yeah. My grandfather also definitely alcoholic. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Now my dad did stick around. So my mom and dad were super codependent. That's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother show. And, and with my dad gone, my mom's never really recovered from it because they were like this. Even though, right, it wasn't always healthy, they were still so attached. So as I went through this process and learned that I'm the common denominator, my brain can be retrained, right? I can change who I am. And not only that, I can change the past, and I can change my future from where I am right now to where I would like to go. So to expand, ascend, whatever you want to look at it. But I used to have a really bad monkey mind, really, really, really bad, really, really, really bad. Yeah, it was running the show 1,000%. Yeah. And so getting that quiet and being able to get, once it got quiet, it was like, oh, this is what everyone's talking about. This is the good stuff. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Right? You can hear the crickets. Yeah. You can hear everything. And then it's like, oh, I get to lead another way now. And so you have to be very conscious of what steps you're going to take next. But let's talk about those emotions, because most anger is going to come from your lower belly into your root chakra, security, safety. It's red. Go figure. You will feel a fire there originally first. So let's talk about that one first, because I think that's the one trigger, especially for victims, that they want to blame somebody else, and they're gonna lash out because they don't know what to do with that energy within the fire in the belly. But if you can take a few deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, releasing it, because your vagus nerve and your breath are intrinsically attached, and your vagus nerve goes down to that chakra and can be very releasing of it. And then just take those few breaths, walk away if you need to, because as soon as you react, you're giving your power away, right? You're lashing out, and you're likely going to regret it afterwards, which is one of the harder things that was a tough one for me, was to not lash out. Because when somebody else was firing at me, I want to fight back with fire, but all that does is escalate and everybody loses, so to speak. But if you can, you know what? I can't have this conversation right now. Let's come back to it when we're both a little more calm, right? Instead of that attack, attack, attack. So, for those of you that have a narcissist in your life, this is a really good challenge. This is probably one of the hardest challenges to get through, is to get through this one, because they want to make you think it's your fault. You did it. You created it. They turn everything around and turn it on to you. So we're going to make sure that, we're going to take our power back by distancing ourselves and creating boundaries. And that's super important. Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the next emotion be that we'd want to work on. They're all emotions, energy in motion. And when you stay stagnant, they're just sitting inside of you. They're not being moved. They're not being supported. So Trisha's saying she did an amazing root chakra healing meditation today. Awesome. Sacral and heart as well. Yeah, I felt myself getting annoyed with mom, so went away and did these meditations. Beautiful. Beautiful. Because we can't blame mom for us being irritated. It is, what is mom doing that is triggering me to feel this way right now? It's a gift. Everything's happening for you to show you what you need to work on. Yeah, Absolutely. Yeah, I love my meditations too. I don't do a ton. I'm more active meditating all the time. Drive a date, nap a date, walk a date, swim a date. Yeah, but there's definitely every morning I got a routine I do and I got a little exercise I do that's part of it. So however, I'm a very much of an active meditator, and then as needed, I'll go deep within my womb and hang out there, which is one of my favorite spots to hang out. So we've got anger is one of the most explosive ones that was hard for me to tone down. What was your hardest emotion to tone
Hmm, that was a hard one. You know,
Was it anger?
well, I mean, all of us are going to experience anger.
Yeah.
It's just a part of it. But let's go with what follows anger whenever we allow ourselves to just full blown become angry, and then we have that experience. We say the things we don't we know we don't want to say, yet we say them out of anger. And what's the biggest thing that usually follows after that? Guilt. Okay. So when I knew that if I would go into the anger and would say things I knew I didn't mean, I knew I would be doing things because I would be defending myself, because that's what anger's for as well, because anger can be utilized in ways that propels us. But it also helps us feel a little bit empowered about who we are, where we are, the situation and the environment and the experiences that are going on. And when you look at the scale that um, David R. Hawkins put out to understand the scales of the okay, yes, thank you, the numbers, then you'll see that as you continue to go up the scale, anger is one of those that is about as close to the level of, go to images.
Oh,
Oh, huh, there you go.
which one do you want? That
That'll
one?
be fine. Yeah.
Up to.
Up
Okay,
at
got
top.
it.
Okay.
You do. You're still talking, you know.
So when we look at this chart and we see that anger is one of those that is a little bit of a higher um, number, so to speak, because what anger does is it like I just said, it gives us a chance to feel empowered. But when we enact those feelings, those emotions, oh, I apologize. Then what happens is we sit with ourselves, because when we get angry, for the most part, we go be by ourselves. So what happens is I found that whenever I was sitting in anger, and as I began to calm down and just, stop feeling the emotions, and adrenaline has gone down, and I get to sit with myself, then what I would find is I would go over the situation that had just taken place. And the first thing that would always be the one that would start coming up: guilt. So as we began to recognize that guilt is just the next phase of where we are, in if that's anger, or if we say words we don't mean, or whatever it may be. When we feel guilt, that is a greater depressive state for the body than just about anything else. It's what begins to bring on those moments of compression, so to speak, which oppresses over time, determining on what you're doing with that feeling of guilt. And it's one of those that I had to understand that I couldn't keep doing this to my system. I knew that somewheres within me, I had to make a change where no matter who or what someone was being or saying, I knew I had to master a way where I remained calm,
Yeah.
because I didn't like how it felt. I didn't like who I was when I enacted whatever it was that I enacted that brought that guilt upon. And so as I mastered understanding that, for the most part, the ones that I would get into the argument with was just expressing how they felt. Some, and of course, there are going to be times they're going to express it saying that you're the reason why they feel the way they feel. That's where, as I've gone along in this journey, I've come to understand that it was never about me. But I also had to understand that in order to understand that, I had to go through that to know that.
Right?
So that's where, you begin to understand that if you can find the understanding in that, in um this dimension, vibrations and colors and level of consciousness and things like that, is when you come to understand. I mean, look at guilt, it's at 30, but up here at anger is a 150. Okay, so
Has more energy to it.
right, it becomes a little more empowering.
Yeah.
So this is where, when you begin to understand the levels of the consciousness, then what we're doing is we're in that reflective mode that helps us understand where we are, and this is a way to be able to map where you're at, so that way you may understand, okay, I was angry, now I'm feeling guilty. Oh, that's not good, because that's going to put a lot of pressure on this vessel. So as you look at this scale, there are times you don't even have to go through apathy or grief or fear. Sometimes it's one of those that, okay, I see that I'm in guilt. This is not good. So let me at least move to at least either pride or courage. Okay. Do I have the courage to stand up and apologize for my actions? So when you come to that place of understanding that you have a tool to measure where you are at, then you begin to understand how to utilize that tool. And this level of consciousness, um, oh crap, my mind just went blank. As long as you have something to utilize and you have a tool in front of you, and you allow yourself the chance and opportunity to sit and reflect, and just to see who you were throughout all that, is because it's not about the other, it's about who were you.
Yeah.
And when you have the ability to do that and sit and reflect and see who you were, and then use this level of consciousness diagram, then what you're able to do is understand what it's going to take to get you in a higher vibratory state. So, like I said, if you've done something out of anger and you drop down to guilt or even shame, you want to be able to transmute that and get out of that very quickly by moving that energy, by at least moving to at least courage, or move to a neutrality, where in that neutrality, what you're doing is you're just observing. So from that neutrality, then what happens is you come to the acceptance as, okay, this is who I was. This is what I did. I understand now that all I must do is understand I must approach the situation differently if anything like this or is equal arises. So this is where you're able to understand how to begin to master those emotions.
Yeah, perfectly said. And you know, apathy is just it's almost like you're not allowing yourself to feel anything because you're just done feeling, in my opinion. Like, I'm just so done with this. I can see it in a lot of like teenagers. Yeah, it's a detachment from reality and from yourself. It's not being the observer. So, but there's something different. If you go up, there's neutrality. It's a very different state. Neutrality is being aware of, but I can tell you, when I was going through neutrality, I didn't have many emotions. And I was like, oh, what's going on? What's happening? Gratefully, I have a few friends that have had this journey already in this way. And oh, yeah, that's part of it. And memory lost and not remembering, you know, things because you're being so present is also part of it. So I've had to go from somebody that would remember everything to better put that in the calendar now. Because I'm so loud. I'm just like in whatever I'm doing. And so that's a beautiful place to be. So as we look at this and we see, we've got not just from the apathy to grief. I mean, I think part of grief is realizing that the whole world isn't what you believed it to be. It's not what you were raised when you were being raised. You thought it was one way. This is part of that grief. And then it's fear, like, oh, now what? right? So there's a lot of different ways this can play out, and you can go up and down on it depending on what's happening. Okay? So depending on what's going on. All right? So don't attach too much. Just observe where you're at and use this scale to help you. Right? That's the goal. And as you move forward, and you can do more research on each, and we will, when we start the course, we will have more of a breakdown on this. But right now, what we wanted to deal with is, how do I deal with my emotions right now? And Cindy says anger, shame. Yeah, and you're right, Norma. Guilt comes in there. Absolutely. And oh, I should do more, or I'm a people pleaser, as Dave was saying. You're absolutely right, Dave. Don't want to be a people pleaser, because that we're giving our power away again, right? If we're always trying to please other people. And we've spoken about this a few times, but here's a good time to remind, and we'll make sure we get that list in the chat. It's a good time to remind everyone, when you have expectations about how somebody else is going to behave or what they're going to do and how you expect them to respond, you are giving your power away. You're leaking energy out, and you're going to be disappointed every freaking time. Same with the vacation. Oh, I'm going to go here, and it's going to be like this, and this is going to happen, and that's going to happen. And you get all ramped up. And then you get there, and you had so much excitement before that you get there, and you're just like, oh, well, I already lived the vacation before I got here. I already spent all my excitement. Yeah, you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure. Especially, the great thing about the imagination is it can ramp us up, but where we may lose our ability to understand that there's, it's good to be able to say, I would like to experience this. And in the imagination, all that is just a place to come from, to know exactly what that feeling may be, but to understand that what life says is okay. We hear you, and we will honor this. However, when you arrive, it's not going to be exactly the way you imagine it. Okay. Because life has its way of showing you this experience you speak to that you want to have. And in that, because where awareness comes in is that we begin to I'll use me for an example. I began to recognize, as I was having these experiences, especially when I was going through and I was learning all this stuff and I was taking in all this information and I was applying it in the way that, I was understanding it, and then coming to understand that there was so much more to it than what I was even being given, was that I had to understand the difference, that just because I had the image in my head and I seen it exactly the way it was, what was happening was I didn't know how much my subconscious was also playing its role and its part by me not being aware of what it was doing. Okay. So what happens is life, depending on how you're asking for that experience, is very vitally important of the words that you use when you ask for that experience. And this is where, as you go along and you get to understand more about yourself, and you get to understand how to raise your vibratory state and what frequency actually does and how you magnetize things to yourself, is to understand that you must not have judgment. You must remain with an open mind. You must be open to whatever it is that life has to show you in its way, because you're here in the manifest. And to understand that we always get what we ask for. It's just, are we always aware of what it is we're specifically asking? So there's a lot that, I had to go through to understand this, but it was also one of those that it was information that was being, what you would say, trickled, so to speak. So it was one of those, I went through that hard life knocks of this life of university to understand that I must be present on every level to understand what I'm wanting, what I'm asking for, when I ask for it, and the words that I'm utilizing and how I'm asking, ensuring that when I do go to ask, that subconscious understands that this is what I believe, and getting the subconscious to understand that belief. Because when we have a belief, the subconscious is going to be the first one to come to the forefront of your mind, because it knows, because that belief has been around for so long because it was something that was, taught to us, or it was something that, so many people spoke to, and they was like, I believe this and I believe that. And I'm going to tell you, there was a time that came to a point in my life. I told most people, I don't know what to believe. And I didn't. I didn't know what to believe. But as I continue to have life experiences, I begin to understand that a belief changes as well. But it's okay to have belief that empowers you to understand a greater level of a belief. So, in that, we become more empowered in tapping into the many gifts and the many just greater aspects of ourselves, and understanding that we're here having an experience, and in this experience we're going to go through some hard knock lives of that. But understanding that the beauty about the contrast is that when we are shown things that aren't so great in their experience, you'll begin to understand that it might not be in the moment, but when you reflect on it, you're going to say thank you. You're going to be grateful.
Absolutely. Yeah, perfectly said. Let's talk about anxiety. This is a big one for people. That gives me anxiety. I can't do that. That gives me anxiety. You give me anxiety. Anxiety can be a bit of a tricky one, and not to say that it can't be managed. So we have to remember, when you hit a certain age, all of our emotions, we have a physical body, and we have an emotional body, and then we have more of a spiritual body, right? An energetic body. And so it's really important to remember that when we suck things up and we don't clear it out of our system, it gets trapped, and it gets trapped in the body. And then it gets triggered by other things that are similar. So it's so in your subconscious. And let's just revisit this quickly. Your subconscious programming happens from ages 1 to 7. Your brain's the CPU. Your subconscious is the programming. And as you go through this programming, ages 1 to 7, you're set. And then everything's compared to that. Your subconscious only knows you. It is only meant to keep you safe. In other words, like not eaten by something. Like that's its original, right? Was to keep you safe. Oh, so every time you do something that is not known to the subconscious, it's going to pop up as fear. We don't know this. What's going on? I always say nervous-sided. Let's push through it. Let's go. So, and extreme sports really help me to do that. So, because once you push through once, it just gets easier and easier and easier. So, same goes for everything else. Right now, anxiety is huge because nobody knows exactly what's going on in their life 1,000%. And we're being trained how to be really comfortable in the unknown. I've always made it till now. I'm always safe, right? And yes, you're right. LD Levitt, I want to say. Definitely your gut biome is completely connected to your brain health, which is completely connected to the emotions. Yeah. Yeah. Physical freedom liberty lovers asking, my physical body suffers with low back pain and neck pain. Are they trapped emotions? Yep. Also some of it's past life. So it's so much. So we remember, as we go through timelines, past lives, different timelines, it's all these energies running at the same time. And that's a whole nother show too that we will eventually get into for you guys. But is to make sure that one, I always ask, is this mine? So a lot of people with social anxiety, when they go out, they're just highly empathetic, and they're picking up on everybody else's stuff. In order to release that, one needs to, is this mine? Because maybe it's not yours. And if it's not yours, send it back where it came. I like to send it to the sun, because somebody else, there's a lot of anxious people out there right now. So anxiety, things that can help anxiety: walks in nature, grounding, time for self, having a bath, a nice hot bath, right? Some self care. What do you need? What are you doing for you? How are you taking care of you? A nap, Trish said she was being triggered by her mom, so she went and did some meditations. Perfect. What do you need to do for you to shift this around for yourself? And then everyone's like, "Oh, I have anxiety." Are you claiming that? Is that what you want? I'm struggling with this, right? I'm getting better every day. Right? You don't want to suppress it, but you would like to know what's behind it. And maybe it's lineage as well. So I'm not going to say that this is all easy to turn over, but you're going to have to sit with it. You want to talk about sitting with things?
Sure. So with anxiety, it's one of those that I'm going to try and explain a process so that way um, maybe it'll be easier to understand what I'm speaking to here. So let's take a fan, for instance. And as we can, in the fan, in the movement of the air, is let's say we've got it, let's talk about a fan above. You can switch it either way, but it's looking at a fan that whenever it's moving air, it's like the toroidal field that is encompassing the body. So as you go along and you begin to understand that the toroidal field is very important for this vessel, for its function. And as we were growing and we were being given a foundation, which most of us are coming to find out was not a very good and solid foundation, then what was happening was as we were being taught to repress or depress these emotions or these motions of how we were feeling, which became emotions, then they began to become trapped in the body. So let's look at that and say that that's the fan, and look at the fan, and as it's moving its air, then what happens is you can look at that as dust or particles in your environment, or you can look at it as dust that collects on the propeller, the propeller fan, the fan blades, and understand that as that happens, and what happens is you begin to clog. Okay. So when that happens and you have that buildup of the dust particles and it becomes really thick upon the fan blades, then what happens is in that it's like the toroidal field. When you begin to take emotions and hold on to them, what you're doing is you're blocking the natural state of how the toroidal field works with this vessel. So when we begin to release these emotions, when we transmute them, when we come to understand them from a higher and greater perspective by seeing that things that we held on to from our past wasn't what we actually understood them to be, because we weren't able to look at it from the higher perspective. We only knew we were in it because we didn't know that the ones that we were in it with also experienced the same limiting ways of dealing with emotions or motions that became emotions. Then you begin to recognize we were all in that stew pot, so to speak. So when you release these emotions, then what you're doing is this is where sitting with self, giving self that time. This is where you begin to build your currency back up, because you're beginning to clear out those clogs, so to speak. You're beginning to move that energy. You're beginning to give the chakras of your vessel a clearing. Okay, because you're not just holding it in just your organs. That's where it's placed, but it's affecting your chakra and how it's meant to work in its proper way of taking the energy in the toroidal field that works with the body, to understand that once you get yourself to a place where sitting with self and having that time and just sitting with that observer way of being, then, and you lack that judgment, because we've judged ourselves long enough. We've judged each other long enough. When we can get out of that place of judgment and just sit in observer mode, it's so profound. It's profound for self first. It's profound for others. People will pick up on that, because what you're doing is when you do that for yourself, you're moving that energy. You're getting to that place where you're taking those chakras, and you're clearing them out, and you're allowing them to get back to that place where they're even the energy's flowing through your chakra systems properly, and you're getting the functionality. You're growing the functionality of those chakras and what they represent and what they're meant to do to help and assist this vessel in which you're um, traversing this realm in. And then what happens is you begin to raise in your vibratory state of your understanding for self, for others, for situations that are going on in this realm, in the things that we see and the thing that we witness, and all that, to understand when we see these things, instead of saying, and that's not right, then what you're saying, what you're going to do is you're going to look at it from a different perspective, because you're looking at it observer mode. And what's going to happen is, in that higher frequency and vibratory state, you're going to go into a solution mode.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Beautifully said.
thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? I feel like we're running through this pretty efficiently, but I want to make sure that we're answering any questions you have and that you understand. So as we look at these photos and the different chakras and energy centers in the body, and then the toroidal runs outside, it's like a fountain coming up through the center of your body and then coming out. And I've done many meditations to help you clear and set this up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Trish, awesome. Been doing the 5 minutes observing thoughts. Phew, monkey mind. Gonna keep doing the work though. I promise you will have a breakthrough on this. So this is the other thing we've been teaching in the group that we've been working with, is to take 5 minutes, just 5 minutes every day, put an alarm on, and just sit and observe your thoughts. Don't attach to them. Thoughts are not facts. Thoughts are not facts. And neither is an emotion a fact. It's just your body showing you something, right? You're being shown something. Sometimes if somebody gets, a gut punch, it's because, hey, I'm paying attention to my intuition and something's really wrong right now, right? Versus that anger reflection. You need to get to know your body so you understand what your messaging is. Right now my crown's like somebody's like I just got the message. My mom's here. And I'm like, oh, of course she is, because I've been chatting about family and lineage, right? And so, and then she's giving me messages, and I'm like, you have to save that for later. So, it's really beautiful that I'm able to figure that out. And there's ways that once you get calmer, then you can start upgrading. And now is the time to really get this managed, because it's not going to get easier from here on out. We've got a few years of needing to have better tools in our toolbox. And I'm so grateful that now most anything can come at me and I barely respond. I'm occasionally triggered. Yeah, I get triggered too still. It happens. Nobody's perfect. No, nobody's perfect. Not if you're still mostly human. But as we swing into more of this crystalline body, we got to clean out the system. Fasting, meditation, intermittent fasting, doing it for a couple days, paying attention to the moon schedule. Because I bet you if you start to document what's going on with the moon with you, and you start to see the pattern, oh, this happens every time I crave her on this day at this, like these 3 days, then you can come into those 3 days with a different attitude. So, if you can capture your habits and your patterns, not just by observing, but documenting a little bit, it's going to make it much easier to move through some of these. So we're very excited for you guys to know that you've got this. Yeah, you've got this. Yes, absolutely. We'll post the visuals there. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. We'll make sure they get posted. I think we've put them up there before, but we'll get both of those diagrams back up there. And then there will be a whole mini course. So for those of you who know, we've been doing this I've been doing this for a year. And there's been a lot of giving. And Norma's been doing this for 7 months, 8 months. You've been coming public with me for it's almost 6 or 7. Anyways, regardless. So we're starting to ask for donations. If you can afford, it would be great. And I'm just going to pop a link in here in the chats saying you have to. If you can't afford it, we get it. This is just a short link. You can choose like 1111, like there's small amounts there. This money goes directly to us. You can also donate on Rumble. Rumble gets paid too, but either way, we're grateful. So I'm just going to post this one over here and we'll make sure it goes up in the feed as well. So we're trying to build a new site. And we want to build a new site with all these courses for you guys for a small membership fee. You're going to get all these courses and can go in and look at them anytime. So we're doing a mini build-in version first. And one of them is going to be the managing emotions. And the other one is in combination with really is introduction to hermetics, right? And so as you get these little micro learnings, you're going to be able to see you're going to get there in a much more concise. When you don't practice these things daily, you kind of go for a week and then you pop back in and oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, I forgot about that too. So you have to create your own new habits and we're here to help you do that. So I just want to let you guys know that that's kind of where we're going with that. We want to work on and that you've got this. It's about allowing yourself to sit with these emotions, even if, and I know many of you are on some sort of medication, back off very slowly. Don't expect it to happen overnight. Have gratitude for how far you've come. Every time you start to beat yourself up, what can you be grateful for? Right? And you're going to go through these roller coasters of emotions. That's why we came to be human, right? I mean, I can remember bawling over a cow story that I heard about a cow that was a milking cow and it got to go back out to pasture. This that got adopted by this farm, and it went and hid and had its baby because all its other babies had been stolen. I was like, cows are conscious. Cows are totally freaking conscious, and I was like, "Wah!" So, right? This is part of the process of life. Like I didn't know that. I had a cry a couple weeks ago when I realized my bike was selling and I've been asking for it. And Norma just looked at me. She goes, I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, oh, I don't know what to do with that. But yeah, it was definitely one of those. It was like, only thing you see is this was what he was asking for. She was like, oh yeah, 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 and I was like, okay, okay.
Just I could still be. Oh, I had so much fun on that bike. It was like a playmate. Oh, I got my playmate. I'm going to play. We're gonna go play. So that's all. Everything has energy. Everything has a soul. So I'm wishing the next person that has that bike to have a beautiful time with it.
There you go. And what's great is the energy that she has is on that bike. So the next individual that's going to be riding that bike is going to be feeling this energy and they're going to utilize that and not in their, and it may not be that they recognize what's happening, but with the energy that T emits, man, it's like so powerful sometimes that it's like, what's going on over there again? Huh? So anyways, yeah, because I mean, as we sit here and we're understanding how to transmute may not be the greatest way to express
Alchemize.
it. Well, yes, let's alchemize.
Alchemize.
So as we're alchemizing and we're beginning to understand, even though we're going through, this process of the clearing, so to speak, where we're clearing out those clogs. And right now, because the energies are so much more, amplified than what these vessels are used to, the vessels are doing the best they can to definitely keep up with what is taking place. And, so much of, these energies that are coming through that these vessels haven't felt or even been at in so long that we're all doing a great job. We're all doing the best we can from where we are. And in that, each day that I come here and each week that we get this chance and opportunity to come here and speak to y'all, that the one thing that I do want to express here is that if I see you and you're having a conversation with us and you're expressing what you're going through or what's going on or anything like that, The one thing that I keep coming back to is that you're okay. You know why? Because you're back. You're doing great. You're doing awesome. And you're doing everything, no matter what it is that's taking place, it's going to be okay every single time. And when I was going through this, I remember telling myself that, no matter what I'm going through, no matter what it is I'm experiencing, I'm going to be okay. I've made it through worse. I've made it through, sticky situations. And I came out where everything that I went in with, I came back out with. I still had a mind. I still had every limb that I went in there with. I, you know, and in that I remained grateful, and I always knew if I can come out of those situations and know that I did not come out losing anything of self other than, maybe a little bit of pride and the ego being, it's got its little, mouth and stuff like that, then I was okay. And everything is okay. Everything's going to be okay. And even in the okay, if that gets you to, this ain't so bad after all, in all actuality, this is great. This is wonderful. This is beautiful. Because as you begin to alchemize those greater aspects of what this life has to offer, because when you begin to see that what it was that you went through helps you to understand more about the beauty of this process, I'm telling you, you're going to be mind blown, because you're just alchemizing and you're raising your vibration. You're beginning to really understand the depthness of the purpose and reason why you are here.
Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. And just remember when you were talking, it reminded me of the time. So little Miss Traveler over here, she very disturbed after a nap one day because she traveled to a place where cats were.
Oh.
I was like, yeah, you came out okay. Yeah, so that's another story as well. But yeah, let's just say the cats ruled the world, and they walked on their hind legs and had on.
We're talking video game style type of, or like comic book. I was like, man, if I could really draw what it was that I experienced there, I would have such a great comic book or video game on this. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
It was so unique.
yeah. Yeah, thank you, Sassy. We're glowing. Yeah, we found a really sweet spot that we're really enjoying. And Tango, I love biking too. I went from road biking to mountain biking, and in North Vancouver, it's the hardest mountain biking in the world. Little did I know when I got into it. I'm like, oh, you mean there's other places that are easier? But I can always rent a bike, and I don't plan on being there much. So it's a matter of that letting go what no longer serves me, just like the emotions. In order to up level, in order to go in a new direction, I got to let go of a lot, a lot of stuff that you know, that one becomes a little more attached to than they want to, right? So, yeah. Yeah, right? Let it go. Let it go. We could talk for hours on this topic. And I just wanted to something else came to my mind when you were speaking, that quite often anxiety is caused by that which we're not willing to look at. And then we allow it to build and make it into a mountain instead of what it was to begin with. And remember, if you've been on medication and you start to get off the medication, you're going to feel again. And you've been numbed. And it's a process, but I promise it will end. And so if you need a one-on-one with us, Adventures for Connection, link trees there. We are offering some specials right now. And so if you go on there and pay for one session, which is $200, you will get two. And you just have to mention it. So you get a second link that comes in. And so that's 200 Canadian. You can book with Norma or with myself. Or you might be lucky if you get us both. Depends. So we're here to help, and we're here to serve you. And we're very, very excited for the next steps. So I'm wishing you a very magical evening. You've got this, and we love you.
And no matter what is taking place, it's going to be okay. Always make time for self, because that is the most important thing at this point in this journey that we're all going through, is take time for yourself. You know, it's one of the places that when you get to know self, and you get to know self so well, you'll always know another. You'll never miss seeing who someone else is, no matter what it is that they're telling you. And when you're able to see that, then you're able to be able to process that we're all here doing the same exact thing, having an experience. And so we may understand more about who we are. So we may grow and become so much greater at this game called life. So love you, be the observer, drop judgment, and understand you can only make the choices from where you are, but guaranteed, you put in that time for self, you're going to make better ones. I give you my word.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're always here giving you guys so much, right? So yeah, tap in. We're coming back. And guess what? So instead of us on Tuesday, we're gonna swing over to Wednesday and we're gonna give the Tuesday spot to David. So David Pills, White Star Teaching, is coming on over. Very excited about that. And this Friday will be Alex's inaugural, and Alex and David have worked together. So we'll have some more masculine energy coming in, which we thought would be really exciting for you guys and to share that. And yeah, we're vibrating with excitement over here over this year and the shifts, what we can feel and what's going on. And yeah, there's a big Persian cleansing, but guess what's on the other side of that? So don't forget about you. Love yourself first and foremost, and have a wonderful evening. What was that?
I need to look at
Okay. All right, you guys, we're going to end it off here. So love you lots and chat soon. Bye.